Hey people, I found some good stuff that explains a lot of our history, and it explains why there's so much ancient art of Andromeda, and why Cassi is said to mean Ethiopia in Hebrew, and a lot of interesting stuff. I don't know how much I'll be able to get in this movie, but there's a lot of ancient talk about Andromeda and a lot of ancient art that survived, and they try to make it a racial thing here on Wikipedia. They don't quite understand what the art's about. So ancient poetry, when they were talking about a woman, they talked about her clean waters in the valleys and the caps on the mountains. And nowadays people don't quite get it. But this Andromeda was the daughter of Cassiopeia, and this is the word that they get Ethiopia out of. And so this is the cap right here on the 0 hour. You see kaf. This is the letter kaf, and the Hebrew letter kaf meaning the given hand. And this is the best place to find out what the ancient words mean. When they label a star, it'll give you a more accurate meaning. But this is kaf here, and this is the alpha star. This will be the brightest star in the group. And the Ni is the delta. That'd be the fourth brightest star in this group. And so the story is the constellation is named after Cassiopeia, the queen of Ethiopia. Cassiopeia was the wife of King Cephas of Ethiopia and mother of Princess Andromeda. Cephas and Cassiopeia were placed next to each other among the stars, along with Andromeda. She was placed in the sky as a punishment for enraging Poseidon with the boast that her daughter Andromeda was more beautiful than the Nereids, or the sea nymphs, or alternatively that she herself was more beautiful than the sea nymphs. She was forced to wheel around the north celestial pole on her throne, spending half her time clinging to it so she does not fall off. And Poseidon decreed that Andromeda should be bound to a rock as prey for the monster Cetus. Andromeda was then rescued by her hero Perseus, who she later married. And so this is Cassiopeia. It's the big W in the sky, and the calf hand sits on the 0 line. So Cassiopeia has been variously portrayed throughout her history as a constellation. In Persia, she was drawn by Al-Sufi as a queen holding a staff with a crescent moon in her right hand, wearing a crown as well as a 2-humped camel. In France, she was portrayed as having a marble throne and a palm leaf in her left hand. That would be this one. Holding her robe in her right hand. And a figure called the tinted hand also appeared in the stars of Cassiopeia in some Arab atlases. This is variously said to represent a woman's hand dyed red with henna, as well as the bloodied hand of Muhammad's daughter Fatima. That was his youngest favorite daughter, Fatima. And that's also called the Eye of Fatima, when you see the eye inside of a ambidextrous palm. The thumb is the same on both sides. So the alpha star, the brightest one in it, that's said to mean the breast, is a Shedar. And the beta is the calf, meaning the hand, but that's the giving hand. And then the delta, the fourth brightest star, is known as the Ni, the rukbat, the ancient word for a knee. So I ran into this when I was studying this word, the bras, B-R-A-S, and a fire, a consuming top of the mountain, the eyes. And so Brassier, Brasseer, is top of the mountain. Bras, the ear, two E's. And then when it's not followed by the ear, it'll be the head. And then you see the bras, the ear again, would be top of the mountain. And then bras, those is just the head. And then here's Brassier, just one E, so now it's top of mount. And the bras, Rahu. Rahu is the north node, it's just the head. And so I noticed every time that it didn't have the ears after it, it was the head. It was only the top when it was followed by the mountain, the ears. And in Psalms, the Brassier is gyros, to spin. The top of the mountains will wave. And so that sounds like a stripper. You know, the Brassiers is gyros, to turns. The top of the mountains will wave. Sounds like a one of them tassels that a stripper wears. And then here it is, the chief of the mountains. Here it is in the top of the mountains, but also the chief is the bras, the ear is. Here it is in Ezekiel, the bras is the beginning. And here it is in Ezekiel, the bras. You know, the bra, that's the second word in the Bible when it says, and created, who'd created bras, dark river. And the head of two ways is the bras sign, the dark is. And here the bras is now the best. In the beginning, the bras, dark, head of the way. But I got down here to Amos and I saw it came up twice here. And it was said to be on top, but it wasn't followed by ears. It was followed by the Carmel, the summit of Carmel. Bras, the Carmel. And so I figured that'd be a clue there. But the Brassier is as the chief of the mountains will be raised. As the chief of the mountains will be raised. That's what your Brassier is doing. So if anybody doesn't know what a Brassier is, this is a Brassier. And it's said to come from the ancient French term brassiere, and it was armor that a soldier wore on his top. It's said to mean a French word for the upper arm. Arm is in armor. And so I guess if a woman wanted the upper arm at the party, she would be the only one with a brassiere. A type of military armor wore over the soldier's chest. And so it would be your upper arm if you had armor and your opponents didn't. And so bra, you know, that would be the upper, they're saying. You know, the top, the head, the topmost. But brassos is meant to mean arm in the Latin languages. You could see that the language change had happened somewhere in there. So when it says this bras, the Carmel, you know, sometimes it means the head and sometimes it means on top, the Carmel. It got me thinking about this old picture here of these old Ethiopians with these mountains with Carmel on top of them, on top of their head. And they travel with the dancers, and they and the writings say that it's men, but the pictures look different. So this is their feet, so they're all sitting down, and playing the flute, clapping and singing with the dancers, and and so they do this where the money is, so they're probably dancing for the king. So this Amos 9 is just a short chapter. It starts with the destruction of his rule, and then at 11 it goes to the restoration of his rule. And it's only 15 lines here. But I thought this was funny here. Who does this thing? You know, that you might think that's proper English, but proper English would be, who's that? Who's that? You know, that's something we say down here. Who's that? Who does this thing? Who's that? So this short poem here, it's like many others in the Bible, and it starts with a riddle here, and then the answer is in the last line. And it's hidden in there, and you'll see it right here. I have given them, and that would be your answer right there. It's hidden in them, in that code. But what this says is the rate, R-A-I-T. You know, the rate is the run and rise is a rate. You know, how steep is your roof is a rate. How steep is your stairs is a rate. The rate it tained, the R-A-I-T-I-T-A-I-N, backwards and forwards after this tag. A-I-N-D, tained. The rate it tained, adding A-D-N-I. You know, the N-I is ing, like in the marks of time, or bing. And this is adding nets in. And this is like next in, like you're standing in line, N-X. But it's playing on words, and it's nets. You know, the X is the T-S, the nets. The rate it tained, adding nets in or necks in. And so the rate it tained by adding the net profit in, is called a Theodorus spiral, Epstein spiral, Pythagorean spiral. You know, and Theo, you know, Theo is your Greek word for God. The Theo adore us. And that's how everything's created in this spiral. But what it means is, you know, the square root of 1 plus the square root of 1 is 1 plus 1 is 2. And the length of this line, so then it's going to be the square root of 2. And it comes out to be 1.42385, something like that, I don't remember. And so this 1.43 whatever square, you know, times itself, square it, plus this 1 square is going to give you a gross. And then the square root of that is going to be the net, and it will add up to the square root of 3. And if you keep doing this, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 plus the square root of 1 going to give you a gross. And the net is, when you take the square root of that, is going to give this length is going to be the square root of 4. And it gives you this shape of a nautilus. And this word nautilus, you know, coming from the Greek nautilus, and the word literally means sailor. And so the rate it tained, adding nets in, is a nautilus. I saw the Lord standing, and saying a nautilus. And if you go to this bottom, you see it right here. I have given them. N-T-T-I-L-E-S. The final M is a S. You see it in every word. Nautilus. I have given them. The nautilus. So the rate it tained, adding nets in, all hubs from them Zaba. And so this Zaba, this is said to be the word meaning sacrifice. And it's, Z, the tool, in divide. And so backwards and forwards, hubs, HBZ, all the centers from them cut and divide. And it's talking about the bankers. The bankers also use this rate. And back in the day, it was illegal for anybody to loan money and charge on it unless you were a Jew. And it was also illegal for a Jew to own property and rent it out. So the Jews could only rent property and loan money, and the rest of us could rent or could lease property, but borrow money. We couldn't loan it. So that's what it's talking about here. Is the rate it tained, adding nets in all hubs from them Zaba, the bankers, and yammer to make the word, and said, hack the capiter, and gyros to, and turn to. That's something we say on the boat, when it's time to go to work. Turn to. Shake 'em up, wake up the crew, time to go to work. And gyros to, and turn to. As spies to see, the spies to see, and vex as bras, and vex as, if somebody's blocking your path, they're vexing you. And vex as bras. And so this is like the heads of the people in charge in Ra. Ra was the first. And it's the first two words in your Bible start with this. Bra, set, bra. In the beginning created, bra. And so in vex as bras, as the heads. Class to accurates bear of. Gree. A lesson. A-L-A and then backwards and forward S-U-N. Degree. The bear of degree. The barren is empty of agreement. Is not in an agreement. Of a lesson in uselessness. To agree of a lesson in uselessness. And so, this is a lesson in uselessness, because actually, they make it sound technical, but actually all you're doing is, is the square root of 1 plus the square root of 1 is 2, and the square root of that is this length here. But all you're doing is this length equals the square root of 2, and so when you square it, all you're doing is removing the square sign here. Use 2 plus 1 is going to give you the square root of 3. And the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. And so that's all you're saying. It's uselessness, because 3 plus 1 is going to be 4, and 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. And so this length gives you the square root, but when you make a square of it, you're just removing. And so the square root of 4 is going to be 2, so this length here is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. That this length here is going to be 3. There's going to be 3 of these in here. 1, 2, 3. And so it's the lesson in uselessness. To accurates bear of Gri, a lesson in uselessness. Will tell 'em make mallet less plight. And so the mullet is the word for circumcise. And to will tell 'em make mullet less plight. If you don't get out of here, I'm going to circumcise you. So this down here at line 7, I want to get this because I started talking about Cassi. But I'm going to have to read y'all this whole chapter to make sense of all of it. But the halo, the halo. And the halo is a circle around your head. The light, the circle around your head. The halo ka to give VNI, Ving. The halo giving Cassi is of the Ethiopians. The first time it talks about Ethiopians is Cush. It's the sons of Ham or Cush in Egypt, Mizraim. This is the son of Ham. But the halo giving Cassi is from Tally, Mtaly, from Tally Bing to mark the time his rule. And so what that's saying is Cassi is on the 0 hour mark. Osiris, is on the 6 hour mark over here, and he's below the equator. But this is the halo. At 60 degrees, the circle goes around, and at 0, at the mark of the new year of Cassi. And the halo, the circle around the head, giving Cassi is from the tally, from the tallies, where you start your numbers from 0. From the tally Bing to mark the time is rule. Nose have you, NAS, the nose have you, backwards and forwards. The knowledge have you. The nose, the seed knowledge from have you, halo. The tailors is rule, TALARS. The tailors is rule to tailor your role, to write your future. When you have this knowledge, the tailors a role, the holy tie, HOLYTI, the holy time march from Christ. Holy time march is Easter, when at the Passover. From Christ, from the crossed first work from. It's where your word Christ comes from. And it's the first crossing to work from. Everything worked off of Easter. Easter was the beginning of the year. The holy time march from Christ. To plasti is. To plasti is something that's flexible or can be formed. Ancient word meaning something formable, something flexible. To plastize is can be shaped. From capture where wars from fire. They used to say this is the wall in building of the temple. The fires from fur, from wall, but it's from fire. From capture, wars from fire. But if we look at this Ethiopians, this Cassi is over here in the Greek. It's the Aya. The Aya is the mark that's in my right hand. When I look at my palm, I see a AI in it. The right hand of the God upon. The Aya, the right hand of the Thea upon. OPON, upon. The right hand of God upon. And so it's and from these Esta, from these it is, them how via is like via, in the route of, in the trip, in the way, the transportation, how you got there, the route in time that it took, via his rule. of Legi. And so the Romans that wrote this Greek here, they had a different system of astrology, and so they explain how to use their astrology from the Hebrew. What was written is why it's different. But the Hebrew astrology all come from the son of Shem, which was come from India. You can see here the sons of Hamites, they call them, of income, HCHM. Of income, Cush, to give use, and Mizraim, Ethiopia and Egypt is what they call this, and from cries, to give use, and from cries, to put to canon, to put it in the writings. But down here in these sons of Shem, you can see Arphaxad, the last one mentioned, and you see in other writings that he was born, I think 2 years after the flood is the way they interpret it. But in the other writings, you can find a book called Corey's Fragments, and I've showed it before. And Arphaxad was the Indian that came and taught the astrology. And so none of these are people. This is the school of astrology that they used. And you can see that his son was the Aram, is the wars, W-A-R-S. And that's the one that they changed to Syria, the same word, wars. So back to this Braz Rahu. Rahu is known as the North Node. And when I look at this, which rub and Buxer, Rahu, his opponent, which is few see, then the wall, to see of his hue, UFZ of his HIW, hue, his shade, his color. Braz Rahu, which rub and Boxer, Rahu, who pull which do, who crawl from fuse the who, half it, the cries. This is the same word as Egypt, except it starts with E instead of an M. It's EXRIS, the cries raise and gave on. And give on. So this is Rahu and Ketu, is the dragon's head and the dragon's tail. And it's called the North Node. And you could tell that's the dragon's tail. And Rahu. And so that's what I kind of figured when I saw these symbols. They've changed them now to mean Neptune and Uranus or Pluto. But this kind of looks like an upside down Ankh with ears on it. The mountains, the ears. Kind of looks like the cross of a bra. And so what this is saying is, which is few see, backwards after the line, to see of his hue. Which is few see of his hue, Braz Rahu. And you see, this is Rahu. This is mistaked here, but it should look more like this and sit here. This is Rahu, the unmarked Sephiroth. So which is few see the hues of Rahu. And you see where it sits. It sits at the cross. And here's the cross. At the head of the cross, and grasp each one by the head, his opponent. And so this word Braz, that's the first knowledge consumed. You can see it here in the ancient letter meaning chart. Ba, N, and then Ra, the head, the first. Aleph is knowledge. And it's not in here, but in all ancient letter charts, they knew that was knowledge, power. And then the Shin, the S, is to consume. The first knowledge, to consume, and to consume doesn't mean eat. You know how in the New Testament, when it says in Revelations to get the little scroll and eat the words, it means to consume them. It means to get it inside of you, to understand it, to read it. The first knowledge, to consume. And that's the first word in the Bible. First knowledge, consume it. Bra. In the first powers. In the first knowledge. The bra's it bra. And it makes me think this is the bra's it. This is the first knowledge to learn if you're going to read this. It's these symbols and meanings. This is the ancient language. This was the letter R. You see it on the ancient money is in the drachma. It's spelt with this letter R. And the old grinning nanner. That's where your word banana come from, the grinning nanner. Mars, Mercury, and Da, the first day. And then Rahu or Thama. And this Thama is hard to find. And it looks like it's a cross between the mountains with the two ears. But I believe this is the representation of Thama right here. The bond rituals, and it's Thama means divination. Divination is you see the word divide in there, divine, divination, to do the numbers, to figure the time, fortune tellers. And so Thama is one of the three types of heads: Sattva, Raja, and Thama. And Thama represents all evil and mischief. And Thama is a name of Rahu, the dragon's head. And Thama mesmerizes all animals by ignorance, lust, laziness, and sleep bind them. But they're trying to get rid of this symbol for Thama. It's real hard. This is the only place I could find it. And it's easy to tell that's what it is because you can see the T and the H in there. The Thama. But what's strange is when I was searching for that one of these had come up, and so it looks like is the Thama. The Thama, and which means is the symbol for greed and laziness. And these three nails here represent the 666. You see it right here, the vav, a nail, a hook, represents number 6. It's the 666. And Thama, greed and laziness, is. You can see it in this representation of Thama here, the two ears, and that's what it is splitting. Between these two ears is a new moon. This one totally disappears when it gets here in the middle. You also see it in the symbol of Pisces, which sits on the same line, on the 0 line underneath, down by the equator. But that might be what it means here in Michael 4, the mountains of the Lord's temple. And they, to eye, to look over. The they who, inaccurate the jimmies, inaccurate the days. The jimmies see I, here in it, to have you knock when Brassiers is when so. The house of Yahweh established on the top of the mountains of the Brassiers. In the first knowledge. So are you seeing what I'm seeing? On top of the mountains, the Brassier, the bras it bears, the bras it bear from yell to, the same is what hears. From the bras it bear from yell to, the same is what hears. EARX. The same is what hears. The house of Yahweh established on top of the mountains of the Brassiers. The Brassier is. So back in the day, a poet would have said, and I holler from the top of the mountains. And that same writing today would be, and I motorboat them titties. Alright, it's getting late. I'm going to cut this off and I'll read the rest of this in the next movie. Good day.